Hey everybody, once again, this is Bo, and we get a chance to go out to Bryant University, catch up with Coach Fine. Sir, thank you for this morning.
Well, it's great to be back with you, Bo.
Coach, we can look at games, we can look at statistics, we can identify weaknesses and strengths of our athletes, but in your mind right now, after the last two games, what has sort of stood out in your mind as far as some of the successes that you've seen, whether it's game time or on the film?
Well, there's two things, and I think that, if you're listening to Bo's show right now and you're a football guy, you'll like this. This is truly what a coach would say after a week or two of playing. Same thing about the NFL. If you go look at the second half of the games, you can just pull up a box score. I didn't watch any football yesterday, but you can look at a team that came out in the second half and scored 21 points, or came out and moved the ball better, or stopped somebody who had scored 21 in the first half. And then you know that those coaches and those kids are paying attention, can make adjustments, can learn quickly, that they're good teachers involved. So for me, I always try and hire good teachers. When I hire guys, I look at their track record of what they do in the second half of the games last year, over 2 years, over 3 years. So for us, we were down 24-10, excuse me, 31-10 at halftime, and by the middle of the fourth quarter, we were back 31-24 and had the ball down in the red zone. So in the first game we played, went out and scored twice in the third quarter. So I'm thrilled with the fact that our young coaches are able to teach well, that they can listen to the corrections we want to make and then go implement it, and that our bright kids are able to take the information sitting in a chair and then go translate it into their athletics. And you can do that with NFL teams. If you want to know who has a good coaching staff in the NFL, just go to the box scores, see what happened at halftime, see what head coach was able to go to a coordinator and say, hey, I like this, I don't like that, change your plan a little bit, and then you know who can really coach.
I think that's a good point right there. When you look at Bill Parcells in the NFL, I did not watch any games yesterday except for some of the Lions. I think most of us on a Sunday, after a whole week of football, might get burned out in following the NFL, especially at some of the games that were played. But I did not have a chance to watch it. But Bill Parcells comes to mind as a coach, a second-half coach. Every team that he's had, if he gets shelled in the first half, he always comes out, makes adjustments, and puts his team in the best possible position to win, no matter what the score is. And I think a lot of us sports fans look at that as like we realize there's the first half of the game. Yeah, you put yourself into a hole. But what are those changes that were made to really make this game come back? For example, on defense, what did you all do that was so different in the first half to help out and get you guys close in that third quarter?
Well, we really made two basic changes, two major changes, though. We got away from our zone blitz scheme because they were too fast for us. There were too many holes in our zone coverages when we were short a guy. And we went to more line games up front to create pressure and more full zone coverages where we could see the ball getting thrown and squeeze it better. And by doing that, we created a bunch more incomplete passes. And so that was the first thing we did. And the second thing we did is we substituted some younger players in there on first and second down. So older players on third down were going to have fresh legs to go rush the passer with them. And that created more pressure, and it made smaller lanes to throw the ball in. Now their kids jumped up, made some great catches, and I'm thrilled for them as well, very honestly. But what we did at halftime really helped us and gave us a better chance to be successful.
When you look at the overall game itself, there's got to be athletes out there that you just were blown away. Wow, I always knew this kid could play. I am just impressed the last two games he's actually shown up and done well. You play such a high number of athletes. It's got to be hard to pick out a couple guys out of the entire team.
Well, it is, and we try not to single out very many kids. We're more committed to playing a lot of bodies and not having any one person be outstanding. But we do have a couple of guys that have really shined in the first couple of games. Our tailback, they didn't have the most carries yesterday. The second tailback did, but the first tailback was really dynamic with the ball in his hands. Our third tailback, a kid named Canfora from New Jersey, he is our best player in the kicking game. He's our best blitz pickup person. He's our best pass catcher. Caught a screen pass and went about 50 yards down a sideline. So we've had a couple of young running backs on offense that have really shined. And then on defense, we've been thrilled with the play of our linebacker group. That group, we played 8 linebackers on Saturday, and all of them made plays for us. Now, they can all get better, and they all can learn. But we have one young fellow named Polumsky who's, I guess this is 36 straight starts for him. He started every game since he was a true freshman, and he brings a a real confidence and a swagger and a real or a good leader, and not a vocal guy necessarily, but a guy that's seen it all and done it all and been very successful at it. So those guys have really stood out for us in the first couple of games.
When I was a kid in high school, we had a basketball guy on our team, and we were down a lot. And he at times would come forward, like the coaches are ready to like implode because we just made miserable plays. And what the coaches did is they stepped away. Well, unbeknownst to us, they were listening to see what we would do in the locker room. And we always had this one guy who never really was vocal and finally stood up. He goes, "I'm sick of this blankety-blank stuff. Are you guys ready to play some ball? Because I am about had it with this squad and this laziness." And he just went off on us, and he was right. I mean, the player was absolutely 100% right. I love hearing stories about athletes in the locker room when a coach decides to play the mind game because he doesn't know what else to do, because he's there drawing up the plays and X's and O's. He wants to give the athletes a time to really simmer, to think about it, and to listen, who is that person that steps forward. On your squad that you've got so many guys, it sounds like, that can come forward in a locker room or even heading off to the locker room. As you know, there's a lot of talk that goes on when athletes begin to leave the field that a lot of people miss out on. How much talking do you guys usually have, especially after a halftime that you had, where they're talking to each other saying, "Hey, man, you need to buck up. Hey, you got to watch your man over there. We got this game. We got this game."
Oddly enough, our locker room was an interesting one. We were raising money for a local breast cancer fund here, a group that provides families and the support of the person who's sick with rooms and meals. And so we donated $1 from every ticket, and we raised money, and I went out and raised some money and did a bunch of things. And so at halftime, I was out giving an award, came running in the locker room. I was the last one in, and all the other coaches had already gotten into our coaches area. And our players, we have a brand new locker room, and it's big, and there's a lot of room, and our kids can spread out and relax. And our players, I was fascinated when I walked in the door. They didn't know I was there because I was around a corner. There wasn't a single gripe. There wasn't a single fella saying, "Man, this stinks," or "God, they're killing us," and we were behind. There wasn't a single young guy that we've had, and the freshmen haven't been here long enough to gripe. But the older guys all knew that, hey, it's just a half, and whatever they did in the first half, we could do in the second half, and we darn near almost did. And so we were thrilled with the whole voice of the locker room. We talk about that quite a bit, where we don't want a lot of clubhouse lawyers. We want a lot of guys, and not to pick on lawyers, Bo, but we want a lot of guys that are positive and feel good about what we're doing and can help the other guy. We talk about we have 120 kids on the team. We need 120 guys pulling on that rope, and we don't want to see any guy let go of the rope. The surprising thing was, after we won a couple of weeks ago, I got some nice emails and some phone calls and messages from alums and former players. But after we lost, I was inundated with emails and letters about how good our kids were during the game, about how well they handled themselves, about how hard they competed, about that there wasn't a single letdown. At the end of the game, we were still charging out there and playing hard, even though it kind of got away from us. It was a 2-score game at the end, and it was a 1-score game right in the middle of the fourth quarter, which is what we're trying to do. Put pressure on the opponent who's better than us in the league up from us, but put pressure on them at our place by making them play the whole game, and we did. And our kids weren't happy that we lost. Please don't misunderstand.
Right.
The fans that were there and the people that saw it, the thousands that were here, were thrilled with how our kids handled the adversity, how they fought back, how they competed. So I feel great about where we are, and I feel great about our opportunities coming up.
Elite programs like yours, when I say elite programs, you've got a stellar reputation, but your academics in your school lead the way. A lot of people in the state of Michigan have been following all the goings-on out east and finding and really identifying the key stories and the developments in the programs. You've touched so many lives as far as kids with your message and with your leadership, but it's the on-field stuff that a lot of people have been drawn to your school. You have probably seen a lot of interest in your football program, not only because of the jump up to the higher level competition, but the success you have with the way you rotate your players. Because to be honest with you, I don't know a program that rotates as many players and is successful as you are. How much love have you got from complete strangers who just sort of casually came upon? I know we did, but how many other people have just sort of been drawn to your program and how you do things there?
The number's amazing. When we started this thing 6 years ago, and I've been coaching a long time, and so I've been the head coach 10 years at two other schools, but this is a unique one a little bit because we started it by saying we're going to play all the kids, and we're committed to that. And so the response we get, I get aunts and uncles and relatives and high school coaches and, hey, my kid, I knew he wasn't going to be good enough to be a great player, but God, he's having a great experience being on the kickoff team.